All right, good morning. Welcome to the channel. It's about 8:30 right now in the morning. It's pretty nice out, sitting with my cup of coffee. It's July 4th, so you might be hearing some fireworks go off in the background. Um, kind of what I wanted to talk about here was uh, breaking down sort of my interpretation of a scene in the Matrix, or how I, the philosophy of that fits into the world that I see into my life, however you want to phrase that. But the scene is um, Morpheus is taking Neo into a programmed reality for the first time. So they go into this white room, and there's a TV and a red chair in it. And Morpheus tells Neo that they're in a computer simulation. And Neo touches the red chair, runs his hand across the top of it, and he says, "This isn't real." And Morpheus, basically proceeds to tell him, what is real? How do you define real? If it's what you can taste, touch, see, all those things, then real is simply an interpretation of electrical signals by your brain. Um, so that scene is interesting to me, because it says a lot about the way we think about things and the way the established pattern of the world works, and the way that established pattern, or that foundation that's been created, is forced upon us. Um, you don't even have to say it's forced. It's just it's the perceived notion of how things work. So it's interesting to me because um, we take in so much unhealthy information, right? The world is full of this unhealthy information, all these perceived notions, all these patterns that aren't a pattern that people would choose for their lives. But all this information is coming in, um, and it's distorting the lens through which we see reality. So people do not walk the path in their life that they want to walk because they have all these preconceived notions of reality, and they just go through those motions to appease that programming. Um, so, I think it's important that we make sure that we examine all the information that's coming in and making sure that it aligns with the path that we want to walk in life. Um, and this notion that there's a correct path that you should walk, I just don't believe that. The path that we need to walk is individual for each of us. Um, but I'm going to take an analogy here, an example of something I find interesting with this. So I'm new to YouTube, and there's all kinds of information about how you should do it. Okay. And there's lots of people out there that want to do YouTube, but they don't. And why do they not do that? Because of all the preconceived information of how it should work. So it's overwhelming, and they just don't ever start. That's kind of my belief in that. But okay, so there's all this preconceived notions, right? All this information of how things should work. And one of the things that I think about in my head is I think about what you're hearing all the time, the YouTube algorithm, how to crack the YouTube algorithm, how to do the YouTube algorithm and make it work for you, and all these things, right? So, well, what is the YouTube algorithm, right? It's a programming based upon looking for established patterns and putting those together. So, when you're on here, like me, I just talk about everything. I don't stay in my lane. I just like to talk about things. Things just flow off my head. I talk about them. It's organic, right? It's genuine. But what does the algorithm want? It doesn't want genuine necessarily. It wants established patterns, and it wants things to repeat over and over again. It wants processes. That's what it looks for. And when it finds that, that's what it pushes to the top, right? That's what rises to the top. So it's looking, the algorithm is looking for conformity. So I mean, that's just an interesting take that I have in my head about it, right? Um, it isn't looking for it isn't looking for originality. It isn't looking for that diversity, right? It's not looking for those things that make the fabric of, let's say, a society um, healthy, right? And so you just think about that for a minute. That's the way that our society works. That's the way it all works. Everything needs to be an established pattern. More and more, right? It's AI. Everything's AI. You call um, for help or customer service, it's AI a lot of times. So everything's AI. We are living in a society where people are becoming less and less of part of that equation unless they are in a certain pattern of conformity. So this is why I think our society is sort of breaking down because in any complex system in the world, you want diversity because that breeds new ideas and that makes sure that that pattern of conformity is broken because you don't want that. Because when you get into a pattern of conformity, um, then you lose control. The people lose control. So I mean, it's just kind of a deep thought of sort of how my mind is working on that. But that's kind of just kind of how my mind starts working and thinking. Um, when it pertains to say a scene like that, how do you define real? What is real? Um, so that was just a quick little breakdown here. So I hope you guys have a happy 4th, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.